The age of permanent emergency. Your body thinks something is wrong. Even when your life looks fine on the surface, even when there is no immediate threat, even when nothing obvious is happening, there is a tension you carry, a pressure in your chest, a subtle hum beneath your thoughts, a sense that something is always about to go wrong. Most people call this stress. They say, I'm just tired. I'm overwhelmed. I need a break. I need a vacation. But what you are experiencing, and this is the truth, is not just stress. It is something deeper. You are living inside a state of permanent emergency. Not a crisis that rises and resolves. Not a danger that appears and passes, but a constant, low-level alarm that never fully shuts off. Your nervous system stays alert. Even when you are safe, it stays tense. Even when you are resting, it stays guarded. Even when there is nothing to guard against. And when the alarm never shuts off, everything begins to change. How you think, how you feel, how you react, how you interpret the world, how you experience yourself. You become more irritable, more impatient, more reactive, more suspicious, more emotionally exhausted. And eventually, many people become numb. Not peaceful, numb. That numbness is not strength. It is protection, a survival response designed to prevent emotional overload. And most people don't realize this is happening to them. They assume something is wrong with their personality, their discipline, their resilience. But the problem is not personal. It is environmental. It is systemic. It is cultural. We are living inside a psychological climate that keeps the human nervous system in a constant state of alert. Today, I want to show you, all of you, how that happened. Why anxiety now feels normal. Why calm feels unnatural. Why silence feels uncomfortable. Why peace feels suspicious. And more importantly, how to step out of this emergency state without ignoring reality, without becoming apathetic, and without losing your awareness. Because clarity is the first form of freedom. The human nervous system. To understand what is happening inside you, we need to talk about how the human nervous system actually works. Your nervous system was not designed for comfort. It was designed for survival. For most of human history, life contained real danger. Predators, hostile tribes, natural disasters, food scarcity, and violence. But those threats shared something important. They were physical, they were visible, they were local, and they were temporary. When danger appeared, your nervous system activated, your heart rate increased, your breathing became shallow, your muscles, they tightened, your senses, they sharpened, your focus, they narrowed. This is the fight or flight response. It prepares your body to survive. You fought, you fled, you hid, you endured. And when the anger passed, your nervous system, it returned to baseline. Fear, then relief. Tension, then release. Alarm, then rest. That cycle mattered because the human nervous system is not built to stay activated indefinitely. It is built to cycle. activation, resolution, recovery. That rhythm is what allows the body to repair itself, to regulate emotion, to stabilize thought, and to restore balance. Now, compare that rhythm to your modern life. Today, threat is no longer local. It is worldwide. It is global. Your brain is exposed every day to war, economic instability, political conflict, social chaos, pandemics, violence, natural disasters, and constant predictions of collapse. You experience all of this not as a distant information, but as immediate emotional input. Here is the critical point. Your brain does not clearly distinguish between direct physical danger and symbolic threat. A violent image on a screen, a catastrophic headline, a viral video of conflict, or a political warning activates the same survival circuits as a physical attack. So your body releases cortisol, adrenaline surges, heart rate, it rises, breathing, it shortens, your muscles, it tenses, and your attention narrows. This is not imagination. This is neurochemistry. Now, here is where the real problem begins. Before your nervous system has time to calm down, the next alarm arrives. Another headline, another warning, another scandal, another crisis. There is no resolution, no recovery, no emotional closure. So the emergency state never fully shuts off. It becomes your baseline. This creates what neuroscientists call chronic sympathetic nervous system activation, a constant fight or flight condition. When this happens, your body begins to live as if danger is always present. Your mind becomes anxious, your emotions become volatile, your patience shortens, your tolerance declines, your thinking becomes rigid. Because survival mode prioritizes speed over wisdom, reaction over reflection, certainty over nuance. It narrows perception. It simplifies complexity. It scans constantly for threat. Over time, this level of constant activation becomes exhausting. And when exhaustion reaches a certain threshold, the nervous system does something else. It begins to shut down emotionally. This is where numbness appears. Numbness is not peace. It is neurological self-defense. Your mind is saying, this is too much. I cannot process all of this, so I will feel less. This is why so many people feel detached, disconnected, emotionally flat, and spiritually dry. Not because they are broken, but because their nervous system is overloaded. And then people blame themselves. They say, I should be stronger. I should be more disciplined. I should handle this better. But the problem is not personal, my people. It is structural. No human nervous system can remain healthy inside a constant emergency zone. You are not weak, you are not overwhelmed. And the first step toward healing is understanding that truth. Then versus now. To understand just how unnatural modern life has become, it helps to look backward. For thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, human beings lived inside slow rhythms. Life revolved around daylight and darkness, seasons and harvest, work and rest, family and community, faith and tradition. Information traveled slowly. News arrived days, weeks, sometimes even months, and after events occurred. By the time people heard about a tragedy, it had often already passed. There was time to absorb, time to reflect. Now, time to recover. Even during difficult eras, life unfolded at a pace the human nervous system could tolerate. Danger existed, suffer existed, loss existed, but the mind had space between events. Now consider modern life. We live inside continuous stimulation. Artificial light keeps us awake long past sunset. Screens dominate our attention from the moment we wake until the moment we fall asleep. Work follows us home. Messages arrive at all hours. News follows us everywhere. There is no natural stopping point, no quiet boundary, no psychological nightfall. Now, add global connectivity. For the first time in human history, a single person is exposed daily to the emotional weight of the entire planet. A war begins thousands of miles away. A financial crisis erupts across continents. A natural disaster devastates strangers you will never ever meet. A tragedy becomes viral content within minutes, within seconds. And yet, your nervous system absorbs it, as if it were happening inside your own community, your own house. Your mind was never designed to carry this volume of human suffering. No civilization at all in history has ever attempted to process this much information, this much fear, this much outrage, and this much tragedy every single day. Never. And yet we wonder why people feel exhausted, why anxiety is now common, why depression is rising, why attention spans are collapsing, why patience is disappearing, why silence feels uncomfortable, why stillness feels unsafe. We are not malfunctioning. We are living inside a psychological environment that no human nervous system evolved to survive. Modern life did not slowly prepare us for this intensity. It arrived suddenly, and we are still learning how to survive inside it. Media as a threat delivery system. Now we need to talk about how the modern system works. Because what you are experiencing is not accidental. News once existed to inform. Today, it exists to compete. It competes for attention. It competes for clicks. It competes for emotion. And in that competition, calm does not win. Fear wins. Outrage wins. Scandal wins. Urgency wins. So information is no longer delivered based on importance. It is delivered based on emotional impact. This is why nearly every headline feels urgent. Breaking, developing, crisis, emergency, threat, warning. Urgency keeps the nervous system activated, and the nervous system in survival mode pays attention. Now, add algorithms. Social platforms are not neutral at all. They are optimization systems. They measure what keeps you engaged, and then they give you more of it. And nothing drives engagement like emotional activation. Anger, fear, outrage, conflict. So the system learns. If it disturbs your nervous system, you will stay longer. Over time, this trains the entire information ecosystem to prioritize emotional disruption. Not clarity, not depth, not wisdom. Instead, disturbance. Now, Notice what this creates. You wake up to alerts. You scroll through conflict after conflict. You absorb tragedy after tragedy. You encounter outrage. You carry anxiety in your day. And before your nervous system can settle, another wave arrives. This produces what psychologists call continuous threat exposure. Your mind begins to live inside a constant expectation of crisis. And over time, your emotional baseline shifts. Calm begins to feel unnatural. Silence begins to feel uncomfortable. Stillness begins to feel unsafe because your nervous system has been trained to associate stimulation with survival. Now, add one more layer. Conflict is profitable. Outrage drives traffic. Fear keeps people engaged. No emotional polarization becomes a business model. People are sorted into tribes. Each tribe is fed information that confirms their fears, reinforces their anger, and strengthens their identity. This does not happen because of some secret conspiracy. It happens because algorithms optimize for engagement, and engagement increases when emotions are intensified. The result is predictable. Society becomes reactive. People become polarized. Complexity disappears. Nuance is replaced by slogans. Dialogue is replaced by performance. And truth becomes secondary to identity. This is not how healthy societies function. Healthy societies require slow thinking, careful reasoning, deep listening, patience, restraint. But those qualities do not perform well inside an attention economy. So they are gradually filtered out. And when a civilization begins to lose its ability to think slowly and deeply, it becomes psychologically fragile. Not because people are unintelligent, but because the system keeps that emotionally activated. And a constantly activated population is easy to manipulate. When human beings live inside a constant state of emergency, identity begins to change. You stop asking, what is true? And instead, you start asking, what side am I on? Because sides feel safe. Tribes feel safe. Belonging feels safe. When the world feels unstable, certainty becomes emotional shelter. And tribal identity offers certainty. It tells you who is right, it tells you who is wrong, it tells you who to trust, and it tells you who to fear. This simplifies reality, and simplicity feels comforting when complexity becomes overwhelming. So, complexity begins to feel dangerous. Nuance begins to feel suspicious. Doubt begins to feel like weakness. And curiosity begins to feel risky. Instead of asking, what is actually happening, people begin to ask, what am I supposed to believe? This is not stupidity. This is survival psychology. When the nervous system stays activated, it seeks clarity, not truth. It seeks emotional safety, not intellectual depth. It seeks certainty, not wisdom. So people become more rigid, more defensive, more reactive, more hostile toward disagreement, because disagreement threatens their psychological stability. Now notice what this does to society. Public conversation becomes performance, dialogue becomes competition, listening becomes rare. People speak to win, not to understand. And social media accelerates this. Platforms reward strong identity signals. Certainty spreads faster than doubt. Confidence spreads faster than humility. Anger spreads faster than thoughtfulness. So emotional extremity becomes social. The loudest voices rise. The calmest voices disappear. Over time, this reshapes how people see themselves. They begin to define their identity by their political positions, their cultural affiliations, their ideological tribes, instead of by character, instead of by virtue, instead of by integrity, instead of by responsibility. And when identity becomes ideological, every disagreement feels like a personal attack. Because criticism no longer threatens an idea, it threatens the self. So people defend beliefs as if they are defending their lives. This explains why conversations now feel explosive, why small disagreements escalate, why families fracture, why friendships they dissolve, why communities they splinter. People are not simply arguing. They are protecting their emotional shelter. And when identity is built on fear, fear becomes contagious. Whole societies begin to live inside emotional tension. This is why everything feels volatile. This is why patience feels rare. This is why forgiveness feels difficult. This is why restraint feels outdated. But this is not your destiny. It is psychological condition. And it, like all conditions, it can be healed. But first, it must be understood. Now, let's talk about something most people don't want to admit. Outrage can feel good. Not morally good, but chemically rewarding. When you experience anger, righteous indignation, or emotional intensity, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is the same chemical involved in addiction. It does not produce happiness. It produces craving. It tells your brain, do this again. This is why outrage spreads so easily. It feels activating. It feels powerful. It feels meaningful, but beneath that feeling is a neurochemical loop. Trigger, reaction, chemical reward. Over time, the brain begins to seek emotional stimulation, the same way it seeks sugar, novelty, or pleasure. This is how emotional addiction forms, not because people want to be angry, but because their nervous system has learned to crave activation. Now, combine this with the information ecosystem. The system feeds outrage. Outrage produces dopamine. Dopamine reinforces engagement. Engagement trains the algorithm. The algorithm feeds more outrage, and the cycle deepens. This is not manipulation. It is conditioning. And conditioning reshapes behavior without conscious awareness. Over time, people begin to seek stimulation without realizing why. They scroll when they feel bored. They argue when they feel restless. They react when they feel unsettled, not because conflict is healthy, but because their nervous system has been trained to expect intensity. This is why calm feels dull. Silence feels empty. Stillness feels uncomfortable. Peace feels boring because the brain has been conditioned to crave stimulation. Now notice the deeper cost. Outrage does not build patience. It does not build wisdom. It does not build relationships. It does not build character. It burns hot, and then it burns out. What remains is exhaustion, cynicism, bitterness, and eventually emotional numbness. This is why people say, "I'm tired of caring." Not because they don't care, but because their emotional system has been overworked. And when outrage becomes habitual, people begin to confuse emotional intensity with moral clarity. They believe that feeling strongly means being right, but emotion is not truth, and intensity is not wisdom. True wisdom is quiet. It listens, it reflects, it responds slowly, and in a world addicted to stimulation, slowness becomes revolutionary. The physical cost. The body always pays a price for what the nervous system endures. Anxiety does not stay in the mind. Stress does not remain emotional. Fear does not remain psychological. They all become biological. When your nervous system stays activated, your body remains flooded with stress hormones. Cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. In short bursts, these chemicals save your life. In constant circulation, they slowly exhaust your body. Over time, this produces predictable physical effects. Sleep becomes shallow. Your body remains alert, even when it should rest. This is why people wake up tired. This is why they struggle to fall asleep. This is why their minds race at night. Digestion becomes impaired. Blood flow is redirected away from long-term repair towards short-term survival. This is why stress often produces stomach pain, acid reflux, irritable bowel symptoms, and appetite disruption. The immune system weakens because energy is diverted away from healing. This is why chronic stress is associated with frequent illness, slow recovery, and autoimmune conditions. Hormones become imbalanced. This is why people experience fatigue, weight changes, mood instability, and metabolic disruption. The cardiovascular system strains. Blood pressure rises. Inflammation increases. And over time, this accelerates aging. Now, notice something important. Most people blame themselves. They think, "I should exercise more. I should eat better. I should be more disciplined." Those things matter, but they are not enough. When the nervous system never shuts off, no amount of willpower can overcome constant biological alarm. This is why rest is not laziness. Rest is medicine. This is why calm is not weakness. It is strength. And this is why learning to regulate your nervous system is not self-indulgence. It is survival. When people live inside constant emergency, their bodies slowly deteriorate. Not because they are careless, not because their biology was never designed for this level of sustained stress. And the tragedy is this: many people believe their exhaustion is personal failure. It is not. It is environmental pressure. It is cultural overload. It is nervous system fatigue. Understanding this is the beginning of compassion, both for yourself and for others. Why calm feels unnatural. After enough time living in emergency mode, calm begins to feel unfamiliar. Peace begins to feel empty. Silence begins to feel heavy. Stillness begins to feel unsafe. Not because calm is dangerous, but because chaos has become normal. Your nervous system adapts to whatever environment it lives inside. If that environment is loud, your mind becomes loud. If that environment is chaotic, your emotions become chaotic. If that environment is urgent, your body becomes urgent. Over time, your nervous system learns to associate constant stimulation with survival. So when the stimulation stops, your body does not relax. It becomes uneasy. Restlessness appears. Boredom appears. Anxiety appears. And many people mistake this for a need for entertainment. But what they are actually feeling is nervous system withdrawal. Their bodies become accustomed to constant activation, so silence feels wrong. Stillness feels uncomfortable. Peace feels boring. This is why people reach for their phones the moment there is a pause. This is why they turn on background noise. This is why they avoid being alone with their own thoughts. Not because they hate silence, but because their nervous system has forgotten how to rest inside. This is also why some people become addicted to drama. Not because they love conflict, but because conflict feels familiar, and familiarity feels safe. And even when it is destructive, learning to be still again is not easy. It requires restraining a nervous system that has lived in war mode for years upon years. But stillness is not weakness. It is healing. And peace is not emptiness. It is restoration. Now let's talk about the way out. Not through denial, not through withdrawal, not through pretending nothing is happening, but through discipline. Not harsh discipline, not rigid discipline, but gentle, consistent structure that teaches your nervous system it is allowed to feel safe again. The first step is this: reduce emergency inputs. Not eliminate information, but limit exposure. Choose specific times to check the news, then stop. Pause. Your nervous system cannot remain healthy if it is constantly fed crisis. Silence is not ignorance. It is protection. The second step, reintroduce stillness. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, quiet breathing, prayer, reflection. No screens, no noise, no stimulation. Teach your nervous system that stillness is safe. The third step, rebuild rhythm. Regular sleep, regular meals, regular movement, daily sunlight, human presence. Rhythm stabilizes biology. When your days regain structure, your nervous system regains balance. The fourth step, shrink your emotional battlefield. You were never meant to carry the suffering of the entire planet. You were meant to care deeply about the small circle of lives you actually touch. Your family, your work, your community, your responsibilities. Let the rest go. Compassion does not require constant exposure to pain. The fifth step, anchor yourself in meaning. Meaning stabilizes what fear destabilizes. Purpose calms what chaos agitates. Faith grounds what uncertainty shakes. Whether through prayer, scriptures, reflection, or quiet contemplation, return daily to what reminds you why your life matters. When your life is anchored, emergencies loses their power, and slowly your nervous system begins to trust again. Your breath deepens, Your thoughts soften. Your body rests. This is not instant, it is retraining, but it works, and the world changes, one calm nervous system at a time. The final centering moment. Take a breath. Right now. Nothing at all is wrong in this moment. You are breathing. You are present. You are safe. The world may feel loud. It may feel uncertain. It may feel overwhelming. But this moment is quiet. And quiet is where clarity returns. The world does not need more frantic people. Instead, it needs more grounded ones. People who can think clearly. People who can listen deeply. People who can respond wisely. People who can remain steady when others panic. That steadiness begins here. In breath, in stillness, in presence. And every time you return to calm, you weaken the grip of fear. Every time you choose clarity, you strengthen your freedom. And every time you stay grounded, you become a stabilizing force in an unstable world. That is real power, and it begins inside you. Thank you for taking this time with me.